If you need mountain bike material to finish up the climb, then leave it to the mountain bikers.
Hey everyone, so it's time for another one of our mailbags, and this is a slightly unusual one because we're starting with a question that wasn't sent from you, but we couldn't look past the World Championships that are taking place in Zurich and get these guys' opinions on who they thought was going to win. So with that really tough route that's been set up for the guys and the girls that are taking part, who are your picks to win? Bobby, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this one. I mean, you always got to look at the overall team strength. And there's Australia, Belgium, Denmark, Spain, France, Great Britain, Italy, Netherlands, and the USA that I believe are all the teams that have 8 riders. Slovenia, with the mega favorite, or my mega favorite, Tadej Pogačar, has only 7, but very, very quality riders. So, I mean, we have so many really good guys. I mean, Remco's flying. Matteo van der Poel lost a considerable amount of weight to prepare for this World Championships. We saw some guys in the time trial, like Primoz, that maybe are a little overcooked. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and it's not a very long limb, and say that Tadej's going to win because those big teams are going to control it. Tadej's going to be able to slip off. But then coming in for the podium places, I think you still got to roll with the hot hand of Remco. And then I'm going to go with outsider, fellow American, Matteo Jorgensen to round out the podium. So Pogačar, Remco Evenepoel, Matteo Jorgensen is my pick.
Well, I would almost wanted to copy that, but don't want to be boring on the same time. So I change it just around a little bit. I believe that Mathieu van der Poel will defend his title and win. He lost weight. He is hot and ready. He looked pretty strong in Tour of Luxembourg. So the shape is there. And he will probably finish solo. And second and third, Pogačar will outsprint Remco for second and third place. So my podium is Mathieu van der Poel is winning, Tadej second, and Remco will be third.
But one guy, totally hot hand that neither of us picked, I thought you were going to pick him, Mark Hirschi. Does he have a chance, Yenzi? I mean, he's been on a burner. He's won like 5 one-day races out of 5, something like that. Okay,
Right.
not at the... Okay, he did win San Sebastian. He did win Plouay. I mean, why didn't we pick him?
And don't forget, it's on home turf. He's a Swiss rider in great shape in Switzerland at the World Championships. So how much better could it get? But he would have to come up now against the absolute superstars of our sport. And I don't know, he might be up there, but I don't know, maybe 4, but I don't think he can beat one of them 3. They seem to be just a little ahead of everybody else.
274 kilometers on that course is going to be brutal, absolutely brutal. And remember, not only is it home turf, he's switching to Tudor next year, which is Fabian Cancellara's team, which is a Swiss team. So, man, that guy is probably full of motivation. He doesn't have to worry about what Tadej thinks of him because he's switching teams next year. But that's another thing that I realized with the men's road race is there's so many good guys. I know that you race for your country, but Tadej has so many teammates from other nationalities that I don't know. It could get interesting there. I think Tadej is going to have a few more teammates than the other 6 guys officially on his team.
That might be true, and didn't like an old, who knows, philosopher, whatever, once said, hey, money doesn't stink, especially if it comes in large amounts. So who knows?
Well, the other thing that we mentioned off air is that, the Olympic road race, the last time people wore their national jerseys, Belgium won it with Remco, but they are missing a key part in Wout van Aert. Does his absence change the race in any way for you guys?
Well, yes and no. Of course, there's a very, very strong teammate not there anymore. But there's also a potential conflict not there anymore. Would he race all in for Remco or all in for Wout if Wout is there? At the Olympics, Wout played a crucial part in finally having Remco winning. But maybe now it's all clear as crystal. Remco is the sole leader and all for him.
That brings up another point that I think is super important for Tadej's success is Primoz. He won the Tour of Spain. He looked a little fatigued and admitted that he was super fatigued in the time trial. Will that team rally around Tadej? Will Primoz actually work for Tadej, or will it be, a kind of shadow box in between those two? But Belgium, I mean, you got Evenepoel, Kampenaerts, Wellens, Stuyven, Benoot, Van Gils, Hermans, and De Plus. That's a pretty damn strong team. And Remco's flying. So, it's going to be good. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, also we've got the women's race, number of big stars in there. Who are you picking for that?
I'll let Jens go first on this one so I can, modify his if we have the exact same picks.
Well, I would say it's a tough course, but still. Lotte Kopecky. You can never go wrong with Lotte Kopecky. She is always there. She's always ready. Demi Vollering, close at the World Championships time trial. So the shape is there. She will be definitely up there. And then who else do we need? We have a Belgian woman, a Dutch woman who could be on the other spot. Who would I take there? German? Niedermeyer? Yep, there we go. So some local colors.
Well, I'm going to agree with you. Lotte Kopecky has had a great season. You almost forget that she won Paris-Roubaix. She didn't have the Olympic success that she wanted. She did come back and win the Tour of Romandie Feminine. She just won the European Road Championships. She is the defending champ. That being said, Demi Vollering, she's had some tough losses as of late. Tour de France, Olympics, World Championship time trial. I love her attitude. She hasn't won as much as she won last year, but she's plugging away. Kasia Niewiadoma, she defending Tour de France Femme champion. We had her on our podcast a couple weeks ago. She admitted that she was lacking a little motivation and then got COVID. So she wasn't allowed to ride her bike for a couple days. And that kind of reignited the fire, the passion, and her motivation. So on a course like this, she's got to be dangerous. And I can't help but mention Kristen Faulkner as well. I don't believe she's raced since the Tour de France Femme, but I saw on social media that she was doing high altitude camps, maybe being a little bit more specific with the road race instead of what she did in the Olympics, mixing the team pursuit with the road race. So one more thing I almost forgot. Olympic mountain bike champion Pauline Ferrand-Prévot is actually racing as well. And she's kind of done with mountain bike racing, and this is her first road race on the way to winning the Tour de France Femme next year. I think it's going to be a little bit too much for her. So my top three is Lotte, Kasia, and then Demi Vollering. That's my podium.
Yeah, the other people that we haven't mentioned from this sort of group would be the other people that are on the podium at the Olympics. So Blanca Vass rode incredibly in that race. Marianne Vos, I mean, she's the GOAT. Probably a little too hard for her, would you agree?
But it's Marianne Vos. I mean, you can just never count her out, right? That would be like, hey, is the Mars too far for Elon Musk? Probably not. It's like, she can always, you can always, or you always have to have an eye on her.
Okay, so into the mailbag segment now. Remember, of course, you can send us an email, a message on any of our social media platforms at any time. And Tim Farris is one of the people that did that. He dropped us a message at oddtandem@shockgiraffe.com and asked, I heard that Davis Finney used to run an Italian-style brake setup with the right lever control on the front caliper. Do any pros still prefer this convention? And have you guys ever tried that setup?
So you're talking basically the cyclocross setup where the brakes are reversed.
Yeah.
I did not. I've known Davis Finney a long time. He was obviously a big hero of mine. I didn't know that he did it, but I do know that Cadel Evans rode like that. That was the only rider I remember having the reverse brakes. Because if you jumped on Cadel's bike in the parking lot, because he always had the nicer equipment, the newer equipment, you could crash pretty easily because you'd hit the wrong brake. You'd hit the front brake. Jens, do you remember any other guys that would reverse the?
I actually do. Big German powerhouse Michael Rich, the time trialer. He had it as well because he told me, look, it's pure logic. Whenever you have your bottle in your hand or whenever you have a bar in your hand, it's in your right hand. So you only have your left hand for braking. And you don't want to be braking with your front brake and only have one hand on your handlebar. So that's why when I eat or drink, I want to have my left hand braking with the rear brake. So that make me feel safer, that I can control my bike better. So that's why he has the bike or the braking reversed.
I remember Michael Rick, but that just kind of pops up a new question is, what is the percentage of riders that do actually take the bottle with the right hand? I'm right-handed, so I'm going to do that. I wonder if left-handed guys use their left hand.
Probably do, but there's not many left-handers.
That was an eye-opener for me because I just had to double check my bike is just out of shot, and I just had to check, and I was like, mine is on the right hand. My right controls my right front brake, so apparently I've been riding it back to front and didn't notice. Anyway, imagine you had a time machine that can only transport riders back and forth in history. What would you do? Would you pit Poggy against Merckx, see how riders from the early Tour de France would do in a gravel stage today, or put yourself in a different time? That's from Christine Schneider, and she sent out an email.
That is an awesome question, and I told many people on many occasions, if I would have this fairy showing up granting me 3 wishes, right? I would, of course, go world peace, stop hunger in the world, but I would absolutely selfish keep one wish and go, I want the greats of all times to race in today's Tour de France. I would bring Eddy Merckx back, Jacques Anquetil, Charlie Gau, Francesco Moser, Bernard Hinault, Greg LeMond, to have them all racing, Pogacar, Roglic, and Evenepoel in today's modern time. Give them a year to train, to get used to it, but pick them in their prime in the past. I would completely waste one wish out of the 3 for just to see this happening. So yes, I would love to see the greats of all times racing on the same circumstances and the same peloton.
Oh, that's tough because, so many things have changed. But a long time ago, I spoke with Mick Rogers. We spoke with Mick Rogers a long time ago. And I think it was you, Jens, that asked him, during our period, during our time as racers, could we compete with the new generation of riders? And both you and he said, absolutely not. I used to think that, hey, if we had those technological advances, if we had that knowledge of nutrition, that we would be able to race with this current generation of riders. But I doubt that now after watching some of this last year of racing. I absolutely think that, we would be struggling to be pack fill against these kids. So I'm going to say I don't want to teleport back to the Merckx era when, you were showing up for a race in the back of a Citroën. I definitely don't think I want to warp to this generation, although they have nice buses and satellite TV and all these devices. I'm pretty much happy where I was. Would I want to see all the greats race again together? There's always going to be that comparison. We have that in the NBA. We have that in a lot of sports. But I just think that every generation is specific to that generation. And Eddy Merckx was the best from his generation. It seems like Tadej and Jonas are the best of this generation. Lance Armstrong was the best of our generation, right? So I don't think I want to blend those up too much, because it's kind of like, prior, then current, and then future. You got to kind of keep them separated.
I just wondered on that one, you sort of typically think of GC guys and road guys and maybe classics guys. I just wondered, like, 2 that are from just before this era, Tony Martin and Fabian Cancellara, how they would do in a time trial against Remco and, those big guys, the powerhouses, Ganna and that. I wonder how, that's the one that I'm kind of curious about, what that would look like.
Or how would Cipollini go against Cavendish? Both at their best. That would be spicy.
All those names that you just mentioned, Tony, Fabian, Remco, these guys they're the same. And I saw this great picture that Fabian took on social media of the top 3 of the world championships with himself. And I was like, all those guys are basically motorcycles. And Fabian, the way that he used to win the world championships, the last time it was in Switzerland, by the way, I think it was in Mendrisio, he won by over a minute. I mean, he looked like he had 5 more RPM than everyone else. And, these other guys are the same. And we're just blessed to have those sort of riders like the Remco and Ghana, Alfini, yes, I don't know him as well. But man, watching those guys on TV is just perfection. And back in the day, Fabian was perfection. And in my opinion, that photo that he put on social media was perfection. I love seeing stuff like that.
Someone's asked a technical question here. So this is from Paul Newman, not that Paul Newman, who sent this into the Odd Tandem Twitter account. He says, is a 1:1 ratio on the bike the same regardless of the gear? I.e., does a 26/26 the same as a 34/34? If so, I don't think I could ever climb Alpe d'Huez.
That just went right over my head. I don't even know what that means.
So if you've got a 26 in the front and a 26 in the back, is it the same as having a 34 in the front and a 34 in the back? Or does it feel different on, the ratios feel different?
It's a 1-to-1 gear ratio. That's, I believe, scientifically fairly clear. Larger chain rings feel softer because they move and bend a little more. Some people prefer that because it feels softer. Some people prefer smaller gears or smaller chain rings because they are harder, stiffer, and you have a more direct acceleration. So I believe it depends also what you want to achieve, where you want to go. But yeah, 1-to-1 is whatever you have. If they're both the same, front and rear, then it's a 1-to-1 gear ratio. I don't think we have been there yet. One of the smallest or the closest was probably last year Primož Roglič when he won the Giro d'Italia and a dramatic uphill time trial against Geraint Thomas, thank you. So I think that was probably one of the closest moments where we went to a 1-to-1 gear ratio.
Yeah, I was never ever even close. I think when I stopped racing, the smallest gear was a 39 in the front, and the biggest gear back then was maybe a 27. I don't even think we had 30s or 32s. So for me to go 1-to-1 and get up any of those climbs, I'd have to be like 30-30. That would probably allow me to get up some of those climbs. But, I don't know what seismic activity happened in the world. But for me, for some reason, it's harder to climb than it used to be.
And is it 26/26? Like, you require more force to do that than a 34/34 physically to put power on the pedals because the gear is bigger, right? Smaller on a. I'm now confusing myself. If you've got a smaller gear at the front and a small gear at the back, it's harder to turn the pedals than a big gear at the front and a big gear at the back. I think that's what he was asking, sort of as a general rule.
Yes, I believe so, because a larger chain ring or larger sprocket in the rear, it moves a little more. It gives you a little more flexibility than a small one. Also, the smaller the chain ring or the smaller the sprocket in the rear is, the shorter the chain is bent. So, for example, a 50-10 is not as efficient as a 54-12 because the chain goes so tightly around the 10, it creates so much more extra friction. That's why it's basically only for super fast downhill or a last desperate move in a sprint, but you cannot ride on it for a long time because it's just not really that efficient.
And I remember, taking that bike I've got there. I went on a climbing holiday thing and I turned up and it was one of the first bikes that was commercially available at the time that had a small gear on the inside, and people laughed. And now the pros ride it. At the time, everyone, there was a tiny gap between the inner ring and the outer ring. And incredible how much it's changed.
So you were a trendsetter with your bike.
Oh, yeah.
You were after trendsetter. It was not the the pudding. It was not the pudding in the calves. It was you were a trendsetter.
I was a trendsetter in that I was very quick to get in the bus on a really tough climb. I can tell you that for sure.
And Mark, note to producer, when you do have these hard technical questions, you got to give us a heads up and not just hit us out of the blue, because I felt a little unprepared for that question.
Okay, this is a slightly easier one. It's an emotional question to answer. This is from Andre Brous. I think that's how you pronounce your name, via Instagram. He said, "Hey guys, love the podcast. Really great listening to two of the greater pro cyclists I've ever come across. What do you think about mountain stages like the Vuelta stage, climbing up Suito Negro, which is stage 15? That was Castrillo's second win. The gradient up the last 2 to 3 kilometers going up was constantly 20%, only suffering. I see no joy in watching cyclists almost falling off their bikes. In the interest of pro cyclists, shouldn't there be some kind of protection to stop pros from going so deep? I don't think I like that kind of spectacle." So I suppose it's, how do you feel about really tough mountain stages that go like that?
I'm not a big fan of the steep climbs, like that steep. But I mean, you are asking for a climber to win a hard climbing stage, and everyone knows that it's going to be in there. You're still going to have pretty much the same guys up the front. Would I want to do it personally? Absolutely not. I don't remember going up anything that sustained, that steep. So, again, I mean, cycling's changing. I guess we want to see that sort of stuff. I mean, especially in the Vuelta, they seem to be looking for, a paved ski run, just finding a ski run and just paving it and saying that's where we're going to finish. I don't think that's necessarily my favorite. I'd rather see a normal gradient, normal climb, but it just seems like, especially the Vuelta are going for a little bit of a spectacle with those steep climbs. I'd be curious to hear what the top contenders, the Primoses, the Jonases, the Tades, respond to that sort of question. But for me, I'm fine just with a normal gradient climb, nothing too extreme.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, Bobby. Generally speaking, I think no cycling stage should be longer than 200 and no mountain stage should be longer than 180 max. So give the riders a chance to make it somehow humanly manageable to survive a Grand Tour, 3,500 kilometers through Italy, France, or Spain. Go away with that super long stages. It's just out of this time. When, especially in Tour of Spain, when he put up the Angliru climb for the first time, riders would have a triple chain ring set back then because technology was not as developed. And I can only repeat what I already said back then. If you need mountain bike material to finish up the climb, then leave it to the mountain bikers. Don't bring it into road cycling. Nowadays, I mean, Bobby, when we raced, we had 10 speed? Now they have 12 speed. So they got 2 more gears. So technology is a little better these days. So they can ride a 34 chain ring with a 30 in the rear. So they can go up these little climbs and even almost spin their legs. But still, it's killer hard, and I agree. Stop at 15%. We don't need 20% for a longer period of time. The race is hard enough already the way it is, so don't look for any more sensational, extra steep climbs. Just leave it like it is.
On that note, though, you mentioned the Angliru, and I would argue that the Angliru is probably the Vuelta's most famous climb. It's the Giro's got the Motorola, the Tour's got the Ventoux and Alpe d'Huez. Does having these really tough climbs kind of define what the Vuelta is and give it its unique personality?
I still think the most famous climb in the Vuelta is Lagos de Covadonga. I mean, that's kind of historically been around. If you want a spectacle, yeah, the Angliru. But they don't seem to include it as much as they do with Lagos, because Lagos is steep, it's hard, it's long, but we had Marc Soler win there this year. I don't know. I don't know if the riders, the lead riders, if they were up in the front, if Mark Soler would have still won that. But you don't have anybody like Mark Soler winning up the Angliru because, it is just too steep. But no, I'm not a big fan of those super steep climbs, and it puts so much stress on the mechanics and they have to have a totally separate bike. We saw Primo switch to a climbing bike this year and then get dinged in 20 seconds for drafting behind the car. He normally wouldn't have to worry about that if the climbs weren't so steep.
I see your point. There's several stakeholders in cycling. Bobby and me, we are just former cyclists, so we still think and like the cyclists. So we go, no, it's too hard for them. But yes, I completely understand. It's probably also the Angliru or the crazy steep climbs have the highest TV viewership. And so sponsors like it. The organizer goes, hey, that was a success. I had more TV than ever. The sponsors liked it, so I do another one of them next year. So that's how it then keeps going. And the riders and teams go, what the heck is that? Right? So there's always different interests, and the key is to find a compromise that satisfies all of the stakeholders in cycling.
And to counter my own point, I mean, there's one group of people that absolutely hate it, and that'll be the Gruppetto, because they've still got to go up it. You think on these hard climbs about the guys at the front, but it's the sprinters that have got to go up one of these brutal climbs. I always think, it really highlights how brilliant they are as cyclists, but it's too hard. Well, that's everything for this week. Keep sending in your messages. Just remember, it's at Odd Tandem. Anywhere you see the Odd Tandem profile, you can just drop us a message, leave us a comment on the YouTube channel. And if you want to send us an email, it's at oddtandem@shockgiraffe.com. And we try and do one of these a month. So we'll see you next time.